Meanwhile, let us set aside the story of the clever man. We will begin to tell the story of the simple man. The simple man learned shoemaking, and since he was a simple person, he had to study the trade a great deal until he got it, and he did not know the craft entirely. And he took a wife, and he sustained himself from his work. And since he was a simple person, and he did not know the work as one should, therefore his livelihood was scrimpy and very meager, and he didn't have time even to eat, because he always had to work, since he wasn't thoroughly proficient in the craft. Except that while he was working, when he had inserted the nail and pulled through the cobbler's thread, then he would take a bite on a piece of bread and eat. And his usual way was that he was always happy, and he was constantly only joyous, and he had all the food, all the beverages, and all the clothing. He would say to his wife, "My wife, give me to eat." And she gave him a piece of bread, and he ate. Then he said, "Give me the soup with kasha, buckwheat." And she sliced off another piece of bread for him, and he ate. And he gave much praise and said, "What a goodness and delicacy the soup is." And similarly he ordered to be served meat, and again she gave him bread, and he ate, and also praised greatly and said, "How fine this meat is," and so too other good foods, all of which he ordered to be given, and for each type of food he ordered for himself, she always gave him a piece of bread. And he had great pleasure from this, and praised very much how it was exactly right. What a goodness it is, just as if he actually ate it. For he would really and truthfully sense in the bread what he had eaten, the taste of all the foods that he wanted, on account of his great tamimus, his simplicity, his innocence, and his joy. He tasted in the bread just as if he were eating all those foods. And similarly he would say, "My wife, give me a drink of beer." She gave him water, and he would praise, "What a great beer this is." Then he would summon, "Give me mead." She gave him water, and he also praised the same way, "What a good mead this is. Give me wine," or other beverages. She always gave him water, and he had delight and praised the drink just as if he was drinking it. And so too with clothing, it was also this way. He and his wife together had one peltz, is a pelt coat, unfinished, skin with fur coat in Yiddish. When he needed a peltz, namely to go to the market, he would say, "My wife, give me the peltz." And she gave it to him. When he needed a tulip, of a fancy overcoat with fine fur on the inside, and the fur rolled over into the collar to go amongst people, he would say, "My wife, give me the tulip." And she gave him the pelts. He would have great delight and would praise, "What a pleasant tulip this is." When he needed a kaftan, a long suit coat to go to the synagogue, he would summon and say, "My wife, give me the kaftan." And she gave him the pelts. He would give praise, and he said, "What a fine and what a beautiful kaftan this is." And so too when he needed to don a yuppah. It's a long, unlined silk robe worn for formal occasions. She would also give him the pelts, and he would also give praise and had delight. "What a fine and beautiful yuppah this is." and thus with all things, and he was full of joy, happiness, and well-being constantly. When he had finished a shoe, and probably the shoe had 3 corners because he wasn't completely adept at his craft, he would take the shoe in his hand and praise it highly, and he had enormous delight from it. And he would say, "My wife, what a beauty, and what a niceness this little shoe is. What a sweetness this little shoe is. What a honey, what a sugary little shoe this is." She would ask him, "If that is so, why do other shoemakers take 3 gulden for a pair of shoes, and you take only half thaler, 1.5 gulden?" He replied, "What's that to me? That's the other person's affair, and this is my affair. And besides, why do we have to talk about other people? Let's just start calculating how much I profit here in this little shoe when it changes hands. Instantly and simply. The leather cost me so much, tar and thread cost so much, the filling between the skin so much. Now I profit 10 groschen when it changes hands. Now why should such a profit from changing hands bother me?" So he was only happy and cheerful at all times, but to the world he was a laughingstock, and they got what they wanted, for here they had someone to mock as they pleased, for he seemed to them like a lunatic. People would come in and intentionally start speaking with him in order to have something to make fun of, and the simple man would say to them, just without mockery, and as soon as they answered him without mockery, he listened to them and started talking with them, for he did not want to suspect further witticism that perhaps this itself their reply is mockery, for he was a Tom, a very simple person. But when he would eventually see that their intention is to ridicule, he would say, "So what if you are cleverer than me? You'll still be a fool, for what do I amount to? So if you will be cleverer than me, you will still be a fool." That was all the usual way of the simple man.